So I wanted to make a video in response to Brandon's video about why reenactment is boring. And I'm going to start that out by saying it can be. It very easily can be. I've been bored at reenactments. And that's as a reenactor, I've been bored at reenactments. Without going into too much detail just yet, I do agree with all of Brandon's points. Just wholeheartedly agree. I understand his reasoning, I understand his logic, I understand his points. This is not a critique of him, this is an addendum to him. This is the concurring opinion, let's say. So who am I? Why should you care? Well, I don't know why you should care fully, but who am I? I am Saxon of the 29th OVI, otherwise known as Saxon who's Carl, on different platforms. Within the SCA, I am Lord Carolus Velastus. I am in the Middle Kingdom, and I've been reenacting for probably over 15, getting closer to 20 years now. I've done everything from Roman to early modern to Levantine to World War I to Civil War to the Sengoku Jedi. I have done a lot. I've also participated in World War II reenactments, American War of Independence reenactments, and I have some Viking clothes, Viking, Nordic, you know what I mean. And just, I like collecting cool clothes, different cultures. It's fun. I'm actually gonna change back into the early modern clothing real quick, maybe without the nice hat and fancy sword, just because it's the most comfortable for me right now, and I'll get into the meat of what I want to talk about. So now that I'm back, I just wanted to say a few points. Me saying how long I've been in, nor how many varied things I've done, makes me an expert. I am not an expert. I know I'm not an expert of any one thing. I try and have the mindset of I am always learning. I am always trying to teach what I have learned. I've done this. I teach classes on native food systems. I've taught classes on formation fighting and the history of pike warfare. I love teaching, I love learning. Brandon, I think I've met him at least twice. I know once at the 100-year anniversary to the armistice, and that was great. I was able to talk with him a little bit. He was lost in the parking lot, and my buddy and I knew where he was, even though we knew where in relation to his car he was, because he said, I parked over by here and now I have no idea where I am and it's dark and I don't know. My buddy and I, we knew the area, we knew where he was saying. It was dark, it was very dark, but I had to have a good conversation with him. We had both wanted to meet him because we both very much enjoyed his work. And yeah, I gotta say, I enjoy his work. He has helped me learn so much about the long 18th century than anything else I've seen. He's helped inform me about how slavery worked, about how the British Army worked, how things were done back then. And I didn't know any of that. I wouldn't have known any of that. The long 18th century isn't exactly my area of expertise. I tend to stay either in at least when it comes to America, pre-Columbian, pre-colonial America, all the way up to just before the Civil War, and then really drops off between the Civil War and World War One. I don't even do an American World War One persona. I don't think I have any actually American-born personas, with the possible exception of this, a garrison soldier for the Spanish, which I am very slowly working on. It is not good. It's not great. Hefty pinch of salt. You might as well say it's brined at this point. That leads me to say, I've been in it. I've been in it a long time. And I think one of the biggest hardships the reenactment faces, well, there's not just one, but one of the biggest is you have a lot of people that do want to go out there and burn powder, that want to go and play army. And that's fun. Don't get me wrong. That's a ton of fun. That's the big show. That's the, hey, we get to go out and do stuff. But sometimes it's hard. It's hard to explain history. It's hard to explain what we're doing, why we're doing, when everyone's at a grandstand just, like quarter mile that way, and they're watching these units maneuver and fire, and I can understand how it can be boring. And there's that, there's the reenactors don't always engage the audience in certain ways. So it's kind of hard if you have people that aren't necessarily good presenters in your camps, in your encampments, in your bivouacs. If you don't have people that are halfway decent presenters, there's not much you can do. My point, one of my examples is I was in Harper's Ferry a number of years ago, and this was when I was still doing Civil War reenacting regularly. I was still very much involved in that community. And I just happened to be in Harper's Ferry. I completely forget why we were in Harper's Ferry, but we happened to be there, and it was beautiful, and it was nice, and we got to see where John Brown did his last stand, and I think we got to see the spot where he was hung. I forget. It's been so long. The one thing I remember, though, and this sticks with me so hard, is I showed up. There was, on one of the greens in town, there was a Civil War unit there, a Union unit, a Federal unit, and whether they were Federal or Confederate, I was going to go say hi. Maybe I know them. Let me check it out, see who they are, talk to them, be nice. I get there, and we're wandering through camp. We're in cities. We're not in uniforms, no nothing. Just wandering through camp, looking like, hey, anybody want to talk? Like, hey, what unit are you with? Hey, what's that? What kind of rifle you got? What's going on? How you doing? Nothing. Nothing. They would give us the most curt answers possible. I'd be like, oh, hey, I don't recognize that kind of rifle. What is it? And they'd rattle something off like, oh, it's Maryland Supply, blah, 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 and then turn to walk away. And I'm like, okay, that could have been an interesting engagement of, why does your unit have those? I asked them what unit they were in, and I forget what unit. I believe it was either a New York or New Jersey unit. I remember New being there, and it wasn't Hampshire. And it's like, okay, like, you have any relation to the site here? Were you stationed here? What's the story? What, engage with me. Don't tell me, oh yeah, we're the, 82nd New Jersey Volunteer Infantry Company B. Have a nice day. Like, no, talk to me. See what I want to know. Be able to engage me. And that was such a big issue, and I had that experience, and I just said, I never want to be that reenactor. I never want to be the curt, short answers, as monosyllabic as possible, because that does a detriment to our hobby. That does a detriment to historiography. That does a detriment to learning in general. Because if you come to an encampment and all you hear are one-word answers and nobody wants to talk to you, I guess I'm no longer interested in that. I no longer want to think about joining you guys. I no longer want to be a part of this. And it was hard. It was hard. And I think that's something that needs to be taught in reenacting, needs to be taught in historical recreation, reenactment in general, is if you are not a good presenter, be willing and able to point out who they are. That's one of the biggest things that I learned due to that interaction. That's one of the biggest things I learned in my time with the SCA. It's, hey, yeah, I heard you wanted to learn about mid-14th century Russian clothing. Well, we got Vlad over here, and he's the guy for it. So how about you go chat with him? Or better yet, I can point him out because he's tall enough, you can see him. How about you come with me and I'll introduce you? That's so much of a better interaction than talk to Vlad and walk away. You then have another issue, and I know I'm rambling. I ramble a lot. I'm a talker, I'm a yapper. I think people that just want to burn powder are good for filling out numbers. They're good for making us look good on a march, making us look good in the field. But they need to learn to talk. They need to learn to go and be able to say, hey, I'm busy right now, or hey, I need to go do a thing, or hey, you probably really want to ask, Josh over there. He's a really good guy to talk to about this because I'm not as knowledgeable. And be willing to say that. Another thing is the event sites. Now, Fort Lawrence, which was mentioned in Brandon's video, it is a beautiful site. It has beautiful park area. It's right near the Tuscaroras down there. The museum is nice. It's small, but very nice. And I feel the reenactment, which I've been to a few times. I was actually at the one that Brandon showed. Um, and that's a story for a different time. Uh, but I was at that one, didn't know Brandon, didn't know anything. Uh, I was there, and I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We got, it was very motley crew, too. Like, yeah, there was Brandon with his Fusiliers, there was some light infantrymen, there were some, line infantry, both sides. But then there was a couple sailors, if I remember correct. It's like, okay, we're, we're, we're nowhere near a large enough body of water for, you know, Royal Navy or early American sailors. Like, it's good that you're here so you can show another side of it, but like, what are you doing? um, but that leads into events. Events like the battles. I know they like the battles because I've talked to event coordinators, and they're very much do the battle. You have to have the battle. The battle's the big show. But if you got, 3 Fusiliers barking out orders for whole divisions, the mystique kind of wanes. I've been to small events. I've been to everything from I am the only presenter for my unit, my era, all the way up to I was at the 150th of Antietam, and I couldn't tell you how many reenactors were there, but it was huge. It was also one of the most surreal experiences I've had as a reenactor. Again, story for a different time. And one thing that I have to say about Fort Lawrence that they could probably do better is not have the battle. I think having a drill demonstration would be good. Show like the differences in light infantry versus heavy infantry drill, and amalgamate both sides together to maybe show how they do drill differently for both heavy infantry, light infantry, how they would typically do an advance. Showing that and explaining that to a crowd, you get to burn powder, get to bark orders, get to sound loud and intimidating, and it's fun to be in parade without the hokey orders of 3 Fusiliers in the field. You know where I'm going with this? I think doing a drill demonstration, maybe in the early afternoon, having in the morning a morning muster, which is like, hey, let's get everyone together, let's get everyone in uniform, and let's do a very quick, hey, let's fire, make sure all our weapons work, make sure all our weapons are clean, make sure we are all accounted for. And do a muster. Do a trooping of the color. Do something where it is a parade in the morning. And then in the afternoon, you can do a condensed version of that, and then do drill. Do drill demonstrations. Say that, oh, they're training. And you can have, okay, from, 1 to 2 is British drill. And they're going to show off and do their thing the British way. And then 2:30, 3 o'clock, 4, whatever, you have the American drill. And show that off. Show how they do it differently. And have people presenting and explaining what they are saying each time. And I feel that does so much better for smaller reenactments. One of my groups, that's all we did. We did drill demonstration. We marched around a little bit. We went from column of force to line of battle. We spread out into skirmish lines. We protected against cavalry. We did all the drill. Showed them how to load 9 times. And the people were engaged. Because it wasn't us just acting something out. It was somebody was explaining what was happening. And they might have also been giving us orders. But at the same time, we're showing and moving in the way that we should be presenting. And I feel that that was so much more engaging. Another thing for smaller reenactments, and honestly, I think even the larger ones, set up on Sutler Row or in a very trafficked spot and have a blanket with all the accoutrement on it, all the little bits and bobs, all your, your huffstiff, your hardtack, your rifle laying across, and have one of your best presenters maybe present one of the best kits, because I realize it might not be the same person. But have them there, have them both there, have 3 of them there. Show how different units would pack differently. Show how different, I'm going to use Civil War in this case, how did this unit act and pack during the first Manassas campaign versus March to the Sea with Sherman? That's going to be very different. They're going to be outfitted very different. They're going to be supplied very different. Let alone different sides of a conflict, different factions of a conflict, different factions that are on the same side within the same nation. I do Zouave, and for the French army in World War I am outfitted so different than your regular line infantry. I was part of the 3rd Zouave, and I'm outfitted so much differently than the 115th Infantry of the Line. No, the blue, and they have, I have a Berthier, they have labels, our helmet badge is different. Like, show the differences so that people can ask, why is it different? What are we trying to explain? And I feel that's going to be so much better. I feel a lot of reenactments could be doing better. I don't feel the battles are necessary for every reenactment. And I don't feel the even burning powder when you have, gunpowder armed units. I don't feel that that's necessary. It's fun. It's a ton of fun. I love firing off powder. I haven't done it in a very long time. This is a rubber band gun. But at the same time, there's so much more I can do. I can explain cooking. I can explain how the laundry was done. I can understand how surgery was done. I was actually part of a surgical unit for a reenactment. I wasn't actually a surgeon or a medic of any sort. I was one of the patients that was able to walk around. And you know, sometimes I had my arm in the sling. Sometimes I'd just be walking around and saying like, "Oh yeah, I got bandaged up. My unit's far and away. I'm here helping until I can get transport out." And that's so much more fun at times than, hey, let's sit in camp. Let's watch the fire. Okay, about time for battle. Get your cooters on. Let's get going. That can be fun, but it's not always fun. And if the reenactors aren't having fun, if the presenters of any sort aren't having fun with this, then the regular people that come aren't going to have fun. They're going to see a bunch of bored people sitting around in wool in summer. And I don't know, it's hot. It's hot in wool in summer. We do it for fun. We need to maybe start acting like it at times. So I started rambling. I cut that. Ignore this. So another thing is, because I do SCA, we actually do a lot of smaller level presentations, and we do a lot of non-military presentations. We do a lot of martial. Don't get me wrong, we do a lot of martial. But sometimes we don't. Just the other day, a local group set up a local art museum and did historic art in their atrium, and that was cool. I wish I had been able to go to it because that looked like so much fun just to be there. I could have just gone as window dressing, not even necessarily as an artist, mainly because I don't know how to do any of that. I'm barely decent at sewing, let alone brushstrokes. So, like, we need to get out of the mindset of, oh, reenactments are always martial in nature. Oh, reenactments, you always have to burn powder. You always have to have a battle. And that's a good show. It's definitely a good show. But it doesn't have to be the only thing. Even just having two people do drill. Hey, we got to keep up drill. We want to present how we're doing this. Is so much better than just sitting around camp or attempting to show a battle and showing it poorly. Like Brandon said, I feel he felt hey, maybe we could have done more of a skirmish style, have, you know, light infantry versus light infantry and go and fire pot shots at each other, and maybe one side drives the other away, maybe the other doesn't. Maybe somebody dies, maybe somebody doesn't. Reenactments either need to be more educational, I feel, or more dramatic and nuanced. Because I do feel the constant, oh, we're going to fire, now you're going to fire, now we're going to fire, now you're going to fire. It's tiresome. It's very tiresome. And watching how different groups do different things has been very enlightening to me. I started out with Civil War reenacting, and I loved it. I loved doing formation fighting. I loved doing all the drill. I loved firing the gun. Uh, but then I realized, no, I need to be able to talk to people. I need to be able to present. And that kind of led me away from some Civil War reenacting because I felt I couldn't be a good presenter at some. And then some other stuff happened with Civil War reenacting I'm not going to get into here. And I fell out of Civil War reenacting. I still love it. I actually want to go back to it. But I went to one recently, and I'm like, okay, wow, I haven't been on this side in a while. The other side of the fence, not, Union or Confederate. Watching this, and I'm like, okay, there's like twice as many guys on this side than that side. Let's maybe, do something. And then it felt like one unit only fired like 2 volleys. And I didn't see any injuries or anything, but all of a sudden they called taps and ended the battle. And I'm like, that's it? That's it? There was a cannon duel for like 10 minutes. You saw skirmishers fight for a good long while, too. Once the heavy infantry came in and fired a couple volleys at each other, you suddenly stopped. Didn't see any injuries. I made sure everyone was safe. It was wonderful marching, and I loved that the skirmishers actually filtered through the crowd into the field. That's cool. That's fun. Because then it feels like you're there. But I'm like, okay, that's it. We could do better. I think we could do a lot worse. I will say that. I'm going to end on a bright note. We could do a lot worse. I've seen some non-local ones. I've seen some local ones where I'm like, oh, that's not good. That's not accurate. Why are you doing that? Why are you wearing that? Why are you presenting it like that? And I'm not going to call anybody out. I refuse to do that. That's bad vibes. I'm not going to do bad vibes. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, let me try and make sure that my unit is doing better. Let me try and make sure that my group is doing better. And I hope we do. I hope we are. I want to be known in whatever group, whatever unit I'm in as, oh, there's Carolus, there's Saxon. He's a great presenter. He's a great talker. If you want to know something that he knows, go up and talk to him. Just ask. And it doesn't hurt to just ask. So, Brandon, thank you for being such a good presenter. Thank you. I realized we only met once. I know you don't remember me, but I'm glad to have met you. I'm glad that you have made the channel that you have made, and I hope to see more from you. Your humble and obedient servant, Carolus Velastus.